Hello, and thank you for joining us on Hello Mayor. I'm City of Las Vegas Mayor Carolyn Goodman. It's been a challenging year as we deal with the effects of COVID-19. Many have lost loved ones, lost jobs, and now tens of thousands of Las Vegas residents face potential eviction. While it's very overwhelming, there is rental assistance out there for you. Today, I'm so happy to be joined by members of the Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada, including its executive director and former Nevada Assembly Speaker, Barbara Buckley, and her colleague, attorney Jim Berchtold. And so let's get right into this. Barbara, help us out and tell us what is the date, what is the beginning, but what's the overview, please?
Yes, so this has been in the national news, and the CDC just issued another eviction moratorium. But I have to tell you, Mayor, we hate that word, moratorium, because when tenants hear it, they think they don't have to do anything. Nothing can be further from the truth. If a tenant doesn't respond to that notice that's put on their door, 7-day, 30-day, whatever the notice is, if they don't file a response with the court, if they don't apply for rental assistance, they will face eviction. So we tell tenants, don't pay attention to that other than to fill out the declaration. And we have that on our website saying you're covered by the CDC moratorium. But honestly, the top things to do, complete a rental assistance application, respond to every notice. That will get them started.
Well, let's take a look at this. And Jim, welcome. I met you today for the first time. We welcome you here. How long have you been with Legal Aid?
Oh man, I have been with Legal Aid since 2000, I think. A long time.
And what special area are you working in?
So I am the directing attorney for the Consumer Rights Project at Legal Aid Center, so which really covers a bunch of different areas. We have a guardianship protection program, we have a social security program, we have a bankruptcy program, and then we do just general consumer work. So if somebody has been scammed or defrauded, then we provide them legal representation and advice.
And do you ever get to sleep?
Rarely,
okay,
yes.
Good, I'm all for that. Okay, I'd like to start really at the very tippy top of this. This is just not about renters. It's about people who own property and rent. Now, that's not going to be the discussion in totality today, but tell us, let's look at the owner of the property. Do they have a recourse for help? I know what we get calls in the mayor's office all the time is, I am going to be evicted. I hear they're going to raise my rent if in fact I can stay here. But on the other hand, how about our owners first? Property owners that may have bought this second piece of property or fourplex to make some extra funds. And now this has really wiped them down. They have obligations.
You know, there's a lot of kind of talk out there pitting landlords against tenants, but both have been harmed by this pandemic, right?
Correct.
So many landlords were able to avail themselves of different options from the federal government, PPP, but sometimes the smaller landlords have been unable to do that. So one of the provisions of a new bill that was championed at the last legislative session by the governor, legislative leadership, creates a new program for small landlords. If they own under 4 properties,
okay.
If they only earn a certain amount of money, they're eligible to apply on their own for rental assistance if the tenant isn't cooperating. So that was a very popular piece of the new program that was created, and that amazing piece of legislation also will stop an eviction if a tenant has applied for rental assistance.
And is that same? Is that AB 486, or
That's
is
right,
it a
Mayor.
different one?
That's right, Mayor. That's the name. That's the number
So
of the bill.
what about the property owner that may own a 12-plex? the property owner, where does he go for help if in fact so many of his clients have no funds to pay rent and they owe the mortgage?
So the good news with regard to the federal government's involvement is they have given our community nearly $400 million in rental assistance to pay landlords who are owed money and to keep tenants housed during the pandemic. So this is a game changer for both landlords and tenants. And so that is why getting the word out, Mayor, about this availability of rental assistance is so important, because it can make the landlords whole, especially those who have been struggling during the pandemic.
Well, and as you both know, I mean, many of our apartment complexes have been helping us in this city and trying to do the right thing, but it gets to a point. How many renters are out there that you would estimate, just stay in Southern Nevada for now, that you estimate are caught in this malaise right now?
So I think conservatively
thousands?
it's 50,000. And a year ago, it was 150,000. But fortunately, the economy is beginning to come back. More jobs have opened up that are available. But still, that's why the CDC stepped in, because just in our community alone, we potentially could have had 50,000 evictions during the Delta variant. And so the way out of this, of course, is to get to tenants and landlords the information about how to apply for rental assistance. The county's program that they have set up, that the cities have supported by
Right.
directing
Absolutely.
their rental assistance money, is now picking up the pace. They've been, I think last week they processed 1,000 applications in 1 week. And we've set up a collaboration where if anyone files an eviction action, we're asking the county to expedite that so that no one's evicted while their application is being processed.
What is the deadline? I know in everything we've been doing throughout COVID and now continuing, what is at this point the extension of time for the renter who is in trouble or sees, what is the deadline now? And is it a federal deadline or is it a state deadline?
So our answer, your deadline, if you are a tenant, is the day that's in the notice that's on your door or that you get in the mail. Pay no attention to any other deadline. That is your deadline. Respond to that notice in time and file a rental assistance application immediately. Because even though the CDC moratorium says it lasts until October 3rd, if you don't respond, you will be on the street. So what a tenant needs to focus on is respond to their notice, file a rental assistance application right away, elect and attend mediation, go to any court hearing, and call us for legal help. And we'll repeat all those steps again.
Well, and I'd like to see them on a list that we can share out there. Now, for the process, something's on the door of your apartment, this notice. We are hearing too, I am hearing, there's a notice on my door. You're saying stick with that. But as the news comes down from the federal government or from our governor that we are extending, don't listen to that. You're saying just what's on the door.
Yes.
Okay, so that's very, very important.
Because there's a lot of fine print in the CDC moratorium. One of the things it says is it doesn't stop the court process. So if you ignore the court process, you're
That's
not
what
protected.
that is.
So yes, our message is to the tenants, focus immediately, file for rental assistance.
All right, now what are the two locations, assuming they have this piece of paper? They do what it says, but is there help immediately available and at what sites? I think you had mentioned there's beyond the legal aid site, there's another and online. What do we have?
Yes. So if a tenant wants help in person, they can go to the Civil Law Self-Help Center.
Which is where?
It is in the Regional Justice Center,
Okay.
first floor, big sign. It's our state courthouse, and that's where the main justice court is. They will help any tenant in person. You can bring your notice.
Wait, I'm sorry to do this,
Nope.
but I'm thinking, because of the phone calls we get,
Yep.
what are the hours? And do I have to make an appointment? Those are the first two questions. What are the hours at the RJC?
So it is open Monday through Thursday. I believe it's 8 to 5:30, and then it is now open on Fridays as well. So
Hours, same hours?
I believe they close one at 5 on Friday. I think.
I think it's 4.
4.
And do we have to have an appointment?
No.
Can I just come?
It is a walk-in basis. Anybody can go into the courthouse. The self-help center is right on the first floor. You can't miss it, right past security. They have an amazing staff there that will walk anybody through their eviction issue. So they have free legal forms. They will provide you with the forms. They will instruct you on how to fill them out. And then once you get them done, you can just go upstairs and file with the court.
What do I need to bring with me?
You need to bring that notice.
That's all?
The notice that you
An
received from your landlord.
identification as to who I am?
Will
Not
help.
necessary?
Not necessary.
Not necessary. If you have applied for CHAP, you may want to bring some proof that you have applied for CHAP. If you've given your landlord a CDC declaration, you may want to bring proof that you have done that. But really what you need is that notice, that notice that was put on your door.
And Mayor, one of the very cool things that we just added this week is there are 2 representatives of Help of Southern Nevada there who are helping tenants if they have trouble uploading documents for their rental assistance application.
And is this we had one location at the RJC, of course, at Legal Aid proper on Charleston.
Yeah, the Help of Southern Nevada representatives are at the Civil Law Self-Help Center.
Okay.
So we urge anyone in person who needs help to go there. And then if someone can't get out, they have COVID, or they have to take 3 buses and they have 4 kids, they can call Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada, 386-1070, and we have a team of people who are answering the calls, and we can even help them file their answer from home. We've automated it, and so our person will take their information and help them file that response and walk them through all of this information. And then for tenants who are good online, right? All of this information is on our website, and they can file a response to the eviction if it's in Las Vegas Justice Court from home.
Are you bilingual in this ability?
Yes.
And more than bilingual? Just 2 languages?
We have staff that speak multiple languages, and if need be, we'll get language line on the phone. We'll
Okay.
help anyone.
And for those who are hearing impaired?
Absolutely.
We also have, for those with disabilities, we can handle and help there. So as they come in, how long would you say processing one individual will take? Is the wait very, very lengthy? Maybe a half hour? What is the average? What are we looking at that I'm going to try to get either to the RJC or Legal Aid? How long a wait might there be?
I would say that when you get down to the RJC, if you have your notice with you, you could get your answer on file in a half hour. It's fairly easy. Sometimes of the month may be a little bit busier than others because eviction notices tend to go out at particular times, but the staff is amazing and they will make it happen.
Okay, at that point then, as this is filled out, what happens? Where am I then? I am just giving one of your aides, assistants, the information that's typed into a major database, and then what happens?
So what will happen is the assistant at the self-help center will help the tenant complete the legal forms that need to be filed with the court. So at the end of that interview, you will have some legal forms if you need to file an answer. And so they'll press a button and it will automatically file with the Justice Court. If you're in Henderson, if you're in North Las Vegas, they'll actually print you physical forms that you can then go file. But that is your answer to the court saying, I have received this eviction notice and I intend to object to it. That's the thing that prevents a default eviction.
Okay, so here we are at that point. It's filed. I go home. And then what happens?
So the next step is we urge all of the tenants when they're filing that document to elect mediation. The Nevada Supreme Court has set up an amazing eviction mediation program. And so we
Can
have
you explain that? Because I know
Yes.
we have people who don't really even understand what mediation, what's happening.
So instead of immediately going to court, a landlord and a tenant get the opportunity to sit with a mediator. It's usually a lawyer who's trying to work things out. So, for example, the mediator.
You and I.
Yep. Let's just say we're having a dispute and Jim's our mediator. So Jim will say, landlord, tell me why we're here. And they'll say, well, the tenant owes me $5,000 in rent. And Jim might say, well, tenant, what's your side of the story? And they might say, I do, but I lost my job and I haven't caught up yet. And so then Jim might say, have you applied for rental assistance? And the tenant may say yes. And the mediator can find out where that rental assistance application is, and the county will expedite a decision. Sometimes within 24 hours. The county is getting a lot of grief for rental assistance, speed of processing, but oh my gosh, they are doing a tremendous job right now. They get the information to the mediator, and the mediator is able to say, landlord, will you accept this? Landlord says yes. It's all written up. No more court. The landlord gets paid. The tenant gets to stay.
And there is, coming out of that mediation meeting, is there proof in my hand, or does the owner of the property there and then say, renter, you may stay now for, what is it usually, a week, a month?
Well, so if the landlord and the tenant are able to reach some kind of resolution, then the mediator will actually help them write up an agreement, and both of them will sign it, so both parties will know exactly what the deal is.
Okay, now I have lost my job. What is imposed upon me that I have to show I am trying to get a job, that physically I have an application somewhere? Or is there no obligation on my part because I now am covered for a whole month?
So typically, the rental assistance program doesn't require proof of job application, but by and large, everyone is. I mean, the folks that don't want to look for a job or participate, they're not even trying for this program. What we're seeing is this is really the backbone of this community. People who have worked all their life here, and they want to do the right thing. Because what tenants need to realize, and this is something that isn't publicized very much, if the tenant goes ahead and just moves out and doesn't file a response, they may end up getting sued for those thousands of dollars of unpaid rent. They may get their paycheck garnished when they go back to work and end up paying up to 25% of their income for years, causing them to face eviction again. So this money, and then if we don't use this money from the federal government, it goes back to the federal government. And the landlord doesn't get the money, and they're chasing the tenant in court. So it's very critical to kind of look down the road. And sometimes tenants, when they're stressed and they're facing a lot of anxiety, they don't think that through.
Well, I can imagine, and we've heard of those who are tenants who are behind in their rent, haven't received any relief. So once that sign is on the door, and I know I'm behind, I'm at fault here in my mind, I see that, so now I see it's a government eviction notice of some sort. I leave, and you're saying don't leave.
Don't leave.
Well, that's critical. I mean, to me, if I were behind in my rent, didn't have a job, haven't been successful getting a job, and see a government paper with any word of eviction anywhere, I would leave.
The problem with leaving, if the tenant leaves, they're no longer eligible for that rental assistance money. So it's critical that they apply for the money and they get that money before they leave the apartment. It benefits the tenant, it benefits the landlord, and the tenant can walk away clean without fearing a lawsuit down the road.
Who can I talk to? I mean, I've just envisioned this whole scenario that I am behind. I come home from trying to get a job, I'm not successful, and there is this notice, and now I'm scared that somebody's going to arrest me. So who do I call to help talk me through? I have no food in the refrigerator.
Call
Help.
us, Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada. Call us.
After hours.
Wait till the following morning or call 211. But don't panic, right?
Okay.
Don't panic. Take a moment and learn your rights. So for example, what you might want to do, Mayor, if you're in that situation, get the rental assistance to your landlord. Communicate with your landlord. Say, I've been trying to find a job, but I can't. Perhaps in mediation, you work out a move-out date. You get the tenant the $5,000 they are owed. You agree to move out in 45 days so you can look for another place. The landlord agrees not to put an eviction on your record so that you can find a new place. It's a win-win. It's still a bad situation, but the landlord gets paid so the tenant doesn't get sued. You come up with an agreed upon move-out date, and you've resolved the court case so you don't have to go to court.
So all of this in the filing when I come to legal aid or I go to the RJC for your filing of all of these papers, and then I return home. The turnaround time, is it my responsibility to speak to the owner of the property from whom I am renting? Or is there another part of this process that you will take that over and authenticate that help is coming, please don't evict this individual?
Well, so we always encourage communication between the landlords and the tenants, that's for sure. Okay. But the next thing the tenant will see is a notice from the court that will say, a mediator is going to be contacting you. And so the tenant just needs to be sure to check their mail, check their email, check your voicemail, because a mediator is going to be contacting you to set up that mediation where you can sit down with your landlord and work something out.
Is the landlord by law obligated to attend that meeting so that I am not told to come to a meeting and then they can't find the landlord or his or her representative?
So if the landlord does not attend the mediation, then the court case gets dismissed. No eviction if you don't go through the mediation process. So that's a big incentive for landlords to attend the mediation and try to work something out. The other big incentive is that mediator has access to the CHAP information, to the rental assistance information, and can say, the tenant's been approved, let's work out an arrangement so that the landlord can get that money.
So for people right now who are in that process and you say it's dismissed, how long is that individual allowed to stay in the dwelling?
So
if it's dismissed?
Indefinitely, until the landlord serves another notice, which is another great point, because some landlords will serve multiple notices on their tenant, and the tenant has to respond to every one. So some landlords try to confuse the tenants, right? They'll serve them 3 different notices. The tenant will answer the first one, not the second and third one, and then the landlord will apply for an immediate eviction order on the basis that the tenant didn't respond. So it's very critical for tenants to stay on top of this, and again, to call us for legal help. Again, a good resolution for the landlord and the tenant is the
to work
goal.
it.
And, you know, I was at the RJC and I heard one tenant there who got the notice and said, okay, the landlord didn't want me there, so I went ahead and moved out.
Oh.
But now they're proceeding with the eviction and I can't rent another place. Well, they told me to move, so I did.
Oh my.
But now
And-
that tenant can't get rental assistance.
And two, from what I'm hearing out there, from when we hear from the public, is that some, not all fortunately, of landlords are raising rates. And so once I'm out, now you've already said that, once there is an eviction notice, respond to it, but don't move out. Do
Right.
not move out, because then there is no recourse. I'm sure there are people out there. Do they have any recourse at this time if they've already moved out, and what is that recourse? Well,
So no recourse as far as the rental assistance goes. You can't kind of unring that bell. But one of the great things that AB 486 did is say, if you apply for rental assistance and if your application is pending, if you have an eviction case, you will not be evicted until your rental assistance application goes through. And then the eviction case will either be denied if the landlord's paid, or it will go through the normal court system. But you will be protected as long as you have that application pending. So it all goes back to the rental assistance. You have to apply for the rental assistance.
okay, now if in fact I'm out there really earnestly looking for a job, am I penalized now in this process and denied funding for rent if now I've been lucky enough to get a job? I've not been paid up front. Nobody's going to pay me up front for work I haven't done. But now, I mean, everybody is dying for more employment. Everybody wants a job. All the employers want workers. So there is comment about this. What do I jeopardize myself with and lose if in fact I can get a job?
So the answer is always take the job, right? That is your
Okay.
future stability. And the rental assistance can go back 12 months to look at when you weren't working to help fill in that gap. You have nothing to lose by applying for rental assistance.
Does that money that is out there, does that go directly to the landlord, or does it go to me to give the landlord?
Directly to the landlord.
So it's not funds that I will have for food or anything
No.
else.
No,
Close with
it is specifically to pay rent or utilities. But when CHAP looks at your application, they look at what your income was during the time you were accruing that rental deficiency. So even if you go back to work, CHAP's going to look at when you weren't at work to see if you qualify.
Because it's a great program, Mayor, because what it's looking at is everybody had, almost everybody, had a pandemic-related hardship, right?
Yes, without question.
Yeah.
And so if you had a financial hardship due to COVID, even now if you're back on your feet, but you just don't happen to have a year's worth, 6 months
Savings.
worth of that gap,
Right.
the middle class, lower middle class don't have savings anymore, right?
Right.
So this program can help fill in the gap.
And would you say, does it make a difference, and this has been asked too by single renters, tenants, single people, does the program favor families or the elderly? I'm a single parent, a single person, my children are grown. Will I be penalized and put at the bottom of the list?
No, the program, as long as you meet the qualifications, you're a Clark County resident.
Okay.
You had a financial hardship due to the COVID pandemic.
You lost your job.
You
for
lost
instance.
your job. You were on unemployment during the last 15 months. That's an automatic qualifier, right? If you meet those qualifications, you will qualify. The problem we were having before this great piece of legislation was passed is there's so many people in the queue, and they were facing eviction because it just takes time to process thousands
course.
of applications. But again, the beauty of it now is if you've requested rental assistance application and you respond to any eviction notice, the whole thing is stayed until the county processes
So
your
it
application.
is, don't drop out, keep at it. Now, when you talk perhaps that there may be 50,000 that are caught in this on the low end, I hate to ask this question.
I think low end.
You think low end?
The estimates before, back in December, were somewhere in 180 to 200, above 200,000 people potentially facing eviction. That has gone down, thank God, but it's a high number.
Now, has employment truly improved? Have we seen that the jobs that people, when you're talking about future and getting back to some level of normalcy in life, I will not suffer if I take a job and I have qualified and maybe getting back compensation to the landlord to leave me alone. There is no way the landlord, because they know that apartment is going to come up, can go ahead and raise the rent on me.
So a couple different issues there. So one issue is, should a tenant disqualify themselves and not apply because they think they're going to get put down at the bottom of the list? No. The reason tenants might get disqualified has nothing to do with any of that. What it has to do with is the tenant doesn't stay on top of their application. So the tenant...
Give us some examples.
So
I mean,
once
I'm the coming in, I get started, I do the right thing, then what happens?
Well, once the tenant applies for CHAP, and they do that online, it's an online application, they have to upload documents. CHAP might contact them and say, we need some additional documents, and that's where tenants might fall through the cracks, is if they don't respond to CHAP. So we encourage tenants to go into that account you set up with CHAP, make sure your information is current, make sure you have uploaded every document that CHAP is asking for, and communicate with them so that your application gets processed in a timely manner.
And physically, you are helping these applicants get these documents into process.
The county has contracted with 3 nonprofits to help the tenants.
How many people would you say are actually helping the me's of this world process that? How many people, when you're talking and you're estimating, let's keep the number at 50,000, that's huge.
Yeah.
But let's go to 200,000 or more. How many people are there available?
The county now has about 300 to 400 people processing the applications.
Oh.
They've added folks to speed it up. The nonprofits just received contracts to help people upload documents. So there's probably about 15 of those. They helped 40 people at the Civil Law Self-Help Center with their rental assistance applications yesterday. As a matter of fact, every other week we have a little collaboration call of all the justice courts and the county and legal aid center, and we think, how can we improve the process? One of the ideas that we talked about is having a pop-up to help people with their rental assistance applications.
Now, what do you mean by that, please?
We mean we'll just, we'll set up a special day on a Saturday, and we'll say, come on down if you have a question about your rental assistance application. Not everybody can check their portal. Not everybody can upload a document. They're like, what? You want me to scan what? So we'll have human beings there, right?
Oh, good.
Who can answer questions, scan documents on site, help them through that process. So everybody on the phone today said, what a fabulous idea. Let's spread the word. Let's make sure those people that aren't tech savvy, Mayor,
Yes.
have an outlet and a place to go.
I mean, to me, I just, my heart just breaks for these people who aren't tech savvy,
Right.
who need somebody to hold their hand. They're totally alone. and they did have a job, and they did have a steady income, and they're at the end of their ropes. They're just desperate for some human being to talk to them,
Right.
which I know I have the best staff in the world, and I love everybody that works at the city that are so compassionate. But the reality is trying to get everybody to be saying the same thing, and the consistency of the message of what do I do.
Right.
And so is there, I mean, if in fact you had to, and I'm doing this to you with not fair, but is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in your mind that would be the words out to these people?
Yes.
So we
Okay, I'm gonna count.
we have said these 5 things
Oh,
so
5.
many
I
times.
gave you one extra. You're going to be asked, what's the new one?
So number 1, apply for CHAP.
I'm going to ask you to say them twice. And for those
Absolutely.
who don't know what CHAP is, I know what it is, but could you explain first of all, what does CHAP stand for? And then who's in charge of CHAP? Is this state or federal?
Sure. So CHAP stands for Clark County Cares Housing Assistance Program.
Okay.
It is
And that's where the money came from the feds to the county, many millions, just for rental assistance.
That's right.
That's it.
Yes, there is a big pot of money there for tenants to access.
Okay.
And-
And how much is, I mean, there's plenty left, and it has to be used, all of it, or it goes back to Washington, correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
That's right.
So that's number
So
one.
number
And
one,
say it again.
apply for CHAP. Do not cancel yourself out. Apply for CHAP. Everything flows from that CHAP application.
Okay. Now, how many ways are there available to apply for CHAP? Is that can you do it by phone? Do you have to go online? Do you have to do it online? Can you do it in person? What are the many ways, or is there only one way to do it?
I believe the application process is online, but look for the pop-ups that Barbara was just talking about, because we know that that's an issue for some people, so we are trying to expand that.
I'm going to get to your 5, but it just dawned on me. These people that call the mayor's office or any of our council person's office for assistance, is it legal for that individual to dictate to one of our staff an application for CHAP because they don't know how to access anything to do with technology? Is that
There-
legal?
There are individuals helping, right? So
Okay.
let's say you have a senior that doesn't know how to apply online. There are people who are helping them fill out that application. There's now a person at the Civil Law Self-Help Center that will help people. And if the tenant comes down, files that response, and doesn't file a rental assistance application because they can't figure it out, we actually will have one of the nonprofits reach out to them to try to assist them in uploading all of the documents.
Okay, because I know that's very difficult, and I am technologically not with it. So I could imagine being caught in that,
Right.
and would wonder if I called any elected official in Nevada and I don't know how to do this, are you legal and able to do it for me if I dictate to you, my name is Carolyn Goodman, my address, I'm a year behind in rent, all this information, or no?
It's a little difficult to do that because the tenant has to set up a name and a password, and you probably don't want city staff to have all of that information.
Okay.
So I think the best thing to do would be to go to the Civil Law Self-Help Center.
Okay.
We now have somebody there to help with rental assistance applications. And stay tuned, because we'll be asking the city to publicize this to these pop-ups so people can get in-person help. I think that's the best way to do it.
Okay.
And I
as
know
we
your
go
staff
forward-
will thank me.
Well, I'm sure. No, they don't like that. They really, it's amazing they keep working with me because I just keep loading more on. But I was thinking as we move further into it. All right, so CHAP's number 1. We've
CHAP's
got
number
4 to
one.
go. Number
CHAP's
2.
number 1. Number 2, we are telling people to sign a CDC declaration and give it to their landlord. Now, we are also saying,
Wait, and explain that. What is CD? I know what it is, but please, what is this declaration?
so
And
what,
where is that piece of paper?
what the CDC moratorium is,
The Center for Disease Control.
yes,
Out of
thank you.
Washington,
Yes.
okay.
So they have an
Now,
order
see, you're
in,
smart and a lawyer. I'm just an elected official here who's going to be evicted, so please help me.
so the CDC has issued a moratorium on evictions. To get the protection under that moratorium, the tenant has to print out a declaration and sign it and give it to their landlord. So those declarations are available on the CDC website, they're available on the Legal Aid Center website, they're widely available. You could get one at the Civil Law Self-Help Center if you needed to go down there.
And for those that filled one out before,
Yes?
they don't have to fill out another one.
Well, that's a blessing.
Yes.
Yes.
Is there one of those little barcodes that you could have at Legal Aid or at the center where somebody could take their cell phone, take a picture of it, and then get it somewhere else near to where they are right now and get a copy so they can fill it out that way?
We'll get right on that, Mayor.
It's a great idea.
Great
No,
idea.
I mean,
And
really
we-
and truly, to
yeah.
me, everything seems, I mean, I always go back to the most important thing is safety. Our
Right.
safety, every human being. Right after that is health. You can't do anything if you're not healthy. But, you know, while there are so many issues out there, mobility, being able to move and get to places. So I'm thinking to myself, I live in Paradise Valley. How am I going to get down to the RJC? How am I going to access that? But now I notice when we go to a restaurant, everybody has a little barcode on the table so they don't have to print the menu. Is there something that they could dial or get on their phone with legal aid and then at least get the paper forms that they're going to need so then they can go to the neighbor who has a computer or a printer, can scan it and send it off?
So there's two things they can do right now. First
Okay.
of all, they can call us, right?
Okay.
Old school, pick up the phone.
Love that, love that.
We will talk to anyone.
And a call forwarding after 6 o'clock. What happens when I call you tonight after 6? Because my day just was whatever.
You'll have to call us tomorrow. You can call
Okay.
211, but in the
Okay.
meantime, you can call us the next
Okay.
day. But we'll
Okay.
walk through the steps that Jim is talking about. For those that are, conversant with being online, lacsn.org/eviction help.
Do it one more time, please.
lacsn.org/eviction help. And I've seen it already flash on your screen
Good.
here, so I know it's there. But we have these steps that Jim is outlining on that web page. We have a flyer at the bottom where anyone can print that out. Mayor, let's say you're doing an event at a school next week. Your staff could go there, print out that flyer, and bring 200 copies to that event. Everything is centralized. The link
That's so important.
the link to the CHAP application, the link to any forms you need, right there on one page.
So actually anybody can go into any pretty much public place and they could do it for them.
Yes.
Okay. So now we're on to finish up with 2, CDC.
Okay, so 2 comes with a big caveat. We are recommending that you give a CDC declaration to your landlord, but the CDC declaration provides a very narrow window of protection to certain types of evictions. So do not rely on it. You've still got to take action if you're a tenant. It's a belt and suspenders approach. Give it to your landlord. But number 3, if you get an eviction notice on your door, absolutely respond to it by going down to the courthouse and filing an answer.
My biggest problem as I'm listening to 1, 2, and 3 is access to transportation to get to you and to get into the physical process of that. I'm worried about those who maybe have disability and have to rely on somebody else, somebody that's not within the realm of the proper public transportation. do we have any source of income that's available? Does the city do it, or any of the municipalities, of Uber, Lyft, help, financial help to get people to be able to come down? There's,
Nope.
to your knowledge at this point, nothing
No,
there.
it would be a great idea, Mayor. But the one thing we are doing that we've never done before, because of the pandemic, because of the crisis,
Yes.
if people call us, we will file their notice, the response, for them. We are adding staff, we've added staff, we have law students, some are working for
Wow.
us, some are volunteering.
Ah.
And thanks to the 8th Judicial District Court, that isn't even the court that does evictions, but just because they wanted to help, and the Las Vegas Justice Court, we're now automating these responses. Meaning, it's like TurboTax, what's your name? You answer. What's your address? You answer. They guide you through questions, you push the button at the end, and it produces your legal document. You can do that from home if you're tech savvy. And if you're not, you can call us and we'll do it for
Walk you through, or can you walk us through it?
Yeah, we can walk through and file it for that tenant.
And you have enough on staff, in addition to everything else you're doing at Legal Aid?
It's very hard. We're struggling. We're up to our eyeballs, but we have to do it. We're in a pandemic. It's a crisis. People are working
Without
extra
question.
hours, overtime. We're adding staff. If you want to come work for us, go to our website.
Okay, so volunteers?
Volunteers, call
As well.
us. Yes.
So this is very, how about pro bono from lawyers? Are they helping you at all?
Yes, but you know what? We always have the same group stepping forward to help. We need more. Our message to lawyers, just take one case.
Oh, how beautiful. Okay, so we're through 3, yes?
Yes.
Now we're into 4.
4, when you file that answer with the court, you need to do 2 things. You need to tell the court in that answer you want to elect mediation. There's a box that you check that says, yes, I want to go to mediation. The other thing you need to do is let the court know that you have filed a CHAP application. It's another question. You answer that question.
And is that a necessity that you have started at the beginning and filed that CHAP application?
It is not a necessity, but hopefully every tenant has a CHAP application on file, because there's no reason to wait until you're starting the eviction process.
So that at least gets my data available, so we don't have to waste time at the end.
Yes.
Now, the mediation, were that not elected for some reason, what would then happen? Your case is closed, you're finished with
No.
it, and they're not helping you, or what?
No, you will still get the benefits of AB 486. So your case will move forward, but it will be paused if you have a CHAP application on file. So basically, if you have that CHAP application, your case, your eviction case, is going to be paused until there's a decision on that application. But it's better to go to mediation. So elect mediation if you can.
Yeah,
Do you
you would still get a hearing before a judge.
Yes.
And is that based on the date of your CHAP application, on your eviction notice? Who takes priority in this big bucket of all these people that are in line to get help?
Well, the person that fills out their CHAP application completely gets priority because it's ready to go. I mean, this is still a federal
Okay.
program, right? So the county has to make sure everybody's got the documents in there for the federal audit that will come next
Right.
year, right?
Yes.
But the good thing about AB 486 is the eviction stopped. So even if you're not first in line, you're not going to get evicted.
Now, I'm comfortable that, I mean, I always look to the future and how long, especially if I have family members with me or elderly, disabled, children, whatever. If I have other people that are dependent upon me, I can breathe now at the minimum till October 3rd.
No, we would not tell them to do that. We would say instead, Mayor, file that rental assistance application,
Okay.
respond to every notice, because there are now legal protections that are available if you do those two things. We have a fabulous state law that's actually, better in some ways, because it prevents needless evictions if you're getting rental assistance. So don't pay too much attention to any federal or state law, tenants. Do these two things. File that rental assistance application, respond, elect mediation, attend every mediation and court hearing. Don't put your head in the sand.
Okay.
Complete the CDC declaration and call us for legal help. If you can't remember those 5 steps that Jim mentioned, call us.
And that's 5.
That's number 5. Call us.
Call
Yes.
us is number 5. Call us or
I
go
think
down.
it's more, from what I hear, it's the panic.
I know.
And that maybe that 5th, that somebody is just sort of an ombudsman through the process and that takes time. Every single phone call I know is at least 10 minutes at least.
Yeah.
Unless somebody's just got a quick, I need an answer to. And so how many in the process, and looking at the sad number that may be over 200,000, how many mediators are out there for these meetings? How many, and where do you get mediators? Are they attorneys? Who are they? They're all attorneys?
Yep, they're attorneys. The Nevada Supreme Court, an entity called Home Means Nevada from the state. They are, and also aided by the State Bar of Nevada, Brad Lewis, the Access to Justice Coordinator. They have stood up this program in days, in weeks. They created this whole new program. So the Supreme Court created rules. They recruited over 100 mediators. They've done
Wow.
an outstanding job. And it's going to be a national model. I think at the end, I know the Merrick Garland is having all the chief justices of the Nevada Supreme Court get together today or tomorrow. Nevada will be represented by Chief Justice Hardesty,
Right.
and they're going to be looking what we created, mediation and legal help and fill in the blank forms, and we're urging that same model be used in every community.
What do you hear beyond what you would just imagine? Beyond fear. I mean, fear, as President Roosevelt said, you have nothing to fear but fear itself. For those who keeps ringing in my ear is, when you see that, don't leave your property. Stay in your dwelling. Stay. What can we do to help people who are panicked stay and not leave? I know that panic, that fear of, my gosh, I'm not going to be able to feed my family, or all these things. What are some of the insights that you can help people who are that close? They haven't had a job, they haven't had a paycheck in so long, so they're facing that more than anything, and then the fear of this eviction and being out. Their fear is to run. What can you say to this? Where that 5th, number 5, give us a call, let us talk with you?
Absolutely, yes. Take a breath. Take a breath. If you have a notice on the door, it's 7 days. Take that first day, that second day, and call us. Don't wait till the last day. Call us. Let's talk about your options. Let's walk through it. Or if you want to talk to somebody in person, go down to the Civil Law Self-Help Center. Someone is there to talk to you in person. And walk through your options. Take a moment to think through it, because even let's just say you got a new job, but it's not paying you as much.
Yes.
So you need a cheaper apartment. Okay, well, it's better not to move out and live in your car, because it might take you weeks to find an affordable apartment. Get your current landlord paid.
Okay.
Buy yourself a little time to look for a new place, right? There will be someone to kind of talk through that with you, to say, where do I go to apply for an apartment? It gives you a minute to think through your options, because you don't want to couch surf. You don't want to expose your kids to COVID by going to a homeless shelter,
Without
right?
question.
You kind of need a moment to think. So don't panic, reach out for help.
Are there places, are there super support systems out there that can advise about another apartment or dwelling that you work with that seem to be helpful and will, while that individual's able to stay put for that period of time, but where can they go?
So 211 is a great resource, and there's many lists of affordable apartments.
Okay.
But honestly, Mayor, I mean, this needs to be a focus of some of the American Rescue Act funding that we're receiving, the state, the cities, and the counties. Rents are rising, and we don't want the backbone of this community priced out of the average costs of a rental. We need to do more to build affordable housing. We need to do more to incentivize affordable housing so that people with disabilities and the elderly and those who don't earn enough now aren't priced out of the rental community. That's probably a topic for another show.
Well, and I think too, we haven't talked anything about those who might be able to access or do something with Social Security. Where are we with DETR and everything that you're doing? And this work, it looks to be very challenging in everything we handled last year. But the work that you have done has been incredible. And I know Barbara for sure, all the phone calls on DETR, and of course the city and the county. This is a legislative and governor's area. It's a state area, the DETR, and getting your claims for unemployment, which of course everything folds in together, all of it. And we want to make sure that most of all you're safe and you're healthy. But as we go ahead and look forward to what's coming, the availability of the services, it's about communicating. If you have friends also caught in this same malaise here, to get the word out. And I know what you have supplied for us thus far at least are just these 5 pieces to follow religiously and try to get to the RJC, go into the mediation. And I know that if we can, our monthly newsletter, we're going to be having a monthly newsletter, and we will be able to just point your camera phone over the QR code on the screen and follow the prompts. It is going to be something phenomenal, and I can't thank you both enough for all that you're doing. It is just, I know it's never ending, but everyone that you help, it's that one starfish that's been thrown back in the ocean while we have thousands more to deal with, and then to call and get the help. And I want to thank you at home for watching. We'll see you next time for another episode of Hello Mayor, and I hope that we'll be back both with these wonderful representatives of our community who are doing so much to help us. God bless you both. Thank you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep up the good work. And volunteer, and especially if you're an attorney, pro bono, please call in. Thank you.